Sup, dog?
And the Statue of Liberty was ran.
It's too soon. R.I.P. Toby.
Dude, I feel like low key, everyone that has been in the military has a special connection with Toby Keith. Just because,
Oh
like,
yeah,
that song was so overplayed
it did. It didn't have to go that hard.
it went hard as fuck. I'm not gonna lie, I drank the Kool-Aid. When I first got in the military, I remember jamming to that song.
Dude,
Just
I think if
feeling like
there's,
I was like about to cry, bro.
dude, I think brought to you courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue is the official song of the GWAT.
Oh, it has to be. It has to be.
Like,
Which
yeah,
is nowhere near as cool as fucking Vietnam. But
I mean, like Fortunate Son. You hear Fortunate Son, and you're like, oh, it's a Nam movie,
or
right?
Painted Black, yeah.
You hear Little Toby, and you're like, oh, we shooting Hodges?
Dude, when I hear Toby, all I can think about, middle of the desert, just dropping bodies, Fallujah style.
Yeah, I hear Toby, and Middle Eastern people start looking a little sus.
Dude, I get real racist. Real. I think that's the way he intended it. Just the way God get real racist real fast.
Win in Rome. Oh, man. So how you been?
I've been good, dude. I haven't seen you, haven't talked in a long time. I know. I haven't been replacing the podcast, everyone. It was just transitional between being a daddy.
Dude, you got dad life going on. You're a new dad. Like, everyone gets it. No one's hurt.
Yeah. As well as I haven't told you this yet, so this is gonna be fresh on your ears, dude. I'm talking virgin information here.
Ooh,
just quit my
legal.
job today.
Wow.
Yeah.
Welcome to poverty.
Yeah, I actually just quit my job today. I plan on going back to school, maybe. Well, most definitely. And I love my
Anything
job. Don't get me wrong. It was an amazing job. But that's one thing. That's one reason why I got out of the military is because for family. And
right.
The job I had was 1 week on, 1 week off, which it was an amazing job. I loved everything about it. My boss was understanding everything. He was a total prick, but he was understanding about me quitting for my family. But I don't know why. When my wife dropped me off at the airport, like normal, I was looking back at him and I was just thinking to myself, like, man, I can't leave my baby boy and wife at home anymore. Like, I can't do that. So
yeah,
I had to go into a new profession now because the whole leaving the family behind is not going to work for me.
Well, hey man, that's you got your priorities straight, which that's based. That's good stuff. That's good stuff. You got your priorities aligned, and that's what matters.
Leading into the subject you guys talked about last week is community. This is my community, and I can't just not be in a part of it.
Exactly. It starts at home.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Well, that's good. Any particular field you're looking to get into to go to school for?
Yeah, I was kind of looking. So with the ever-growing technology world and everything like that, which I thought about how old I'm going to be by the time I graduate, and it's pretty disgusting. Because like not only am I graduating school that age, right, but I'm also going into the job field green at that age, and I will be kind of up there.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be like what? You're early 30?
Yep. I'll be early 30s as coming in, and everyone else coming into the field is going to be 21.
And sorry, what field did you say that was?
Oh, so I'm with the ever-growing technology. I'm going into like IT, but not just IT support or anything like that. It's the cybersecurity realm of it.
Sweet. Well, hey man, if there's any listeners on here that have experience in that cybersecurity side, get a hold of Mike.
Or any IT in general. Maybe something I don't, and you're like, hey, yo, don't go into cybersecurity. It sucks ass. Go into networking or something.
Yeah, hit him up on his socials. They're always in the description. Let them know what you think.
Yeah, or send me a big picture of your dick. That's always welcome.
That works.
I get about 40 of those a day. I bump my numbers up to 100.
39 of them are from me. Like, does this lump look weird to you?
Yeah, right. Blame it on the lump. I'm like, dude, why are you half chubbed up right now? I don't know. What are you wearing?
pictures in. Give me 8 more. It's
Give me-
frame for frame.
I just popped a Blue Chew in. Sponsor us.
Hey, speaking of sponsors, if you guys like coffee, which I'm a caffeine addict, so I do, check out Blackout Coffee. Link in the description. We've got a code there for 20% off. They've actually helped us out quite a bit with some support, so support them back. Also, anyone listening, if you have not already, again, socials and links and everything down in the description, we are doing a giveaway for a $500 Ott Gear Patrol parka. The way it's open till the 27th. So you still have a few days after this airs to go do that. So it's a super awesome jacket. It was provided for us by Winter Warfare. Again, super awesome dude. All you got to do is basically tag a couple people in the post, follow the socials. It's pretty easy. We're going to do a live probably on the 28th. And it's going to be on the 28th. And we're going to do that at some point in time. I'm going to announce details for that in the future as we get closer. And we'll read off the winner whenever that happens. So, yeah, if you want that, sign up.
Which is a solid chance you'll get it. Super solid. It's not like we're a huge fucking billion listener podcast.
Yeah, we're not, we're not
the odds
at
are in
like
your favor.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is like, the benefit to being small as we are right now is that you don't have a lot of competition. The odds are pretty decent.
Yeah, I mean, you're throwing your hat in there. It's a pretty good chance.
Just instantly makes 10 burner accounts.
Hey, I don't give a fuck, dude. That's support in our eyes. Just make sure you put those 10 on a repeat track on our fucking shit.
Yeah, man. So I've been thinking a lot lately, getting into some kind of gun stuff a little bit, just kind of something that's rattling my brain. One of the things I've been talking to my buddies about here that I kind of want to do, everyone talks about like the general purpose rifle, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't.
And,
yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people do, kind of the idea of like the rifle that can do a little bit of everything. And we say that
right fucking now, dude.
Like we say that, but like, I don't know. I guess my thing is like, I actually want to get my GPR to do a little bit of everything. So one of the things I'm focusing on in the next couple months is like, I really want to focus more on once the weather gets nice, going out, and I found a few spots to get to practice like distance stuff with just like my 16-inch Daniel Defense with a 1-8 on it.
Here we
and
go.
Some
asshole gonna be in the comments about LPVOs and 20.
Oh, dude, I know, but I'm thinking like LPVO, piggybacked red dot, and my thought was, zero the LPVO for precision ammo, zero the red dot for just whatever plinker ammo I have, and I want to see two things. One, I want to practice and see like how far can I really extend the reach of that rifle just as it is, and then two, also how well does it hold up to rapid fire by running it as like as like an AR RPK by just throwing in drum mags and 40 rounders, because I want to see like if it's a general purpose rifle and the idea is one rifle.
I'm sorry, before you get too far, I want to caveat that thing you said about sighting your red dot in for different ammo than your LPV.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like the most like beneficial thing when you want to sight them both in with the same kind of ammo, because when
I will tell. Go ahead.
Well, because when you use it, right, and you're doing like transition drills from LPVO to red dot. So if you use the good ammo on both, they'll have the same drop. So what if you use the bad ammo? You already know its pattern and what it's going to do comparatively through the LPVO, and then you can like change that for the red dot to make the red dot work.
Right. So here's why. So I've been doing a little bit of stuff with conceptual concepts. He's one of the guys I've been doing some of the YouTube videos with lately. And one of the things we've been realizing as we shoot a lot more is that depending on the ammunition and depending on the rifle, like we've noticed some actually pretty dramatic shifts in accuracy, switching between 55 grain and 77 grain ammunition back and forth, to where the 0 for one is like wildly off for the other. And so that's where so again, we're going to kind of experiment with this idea that he's the one that kind of gave me the idea was the idea that your red dot be zeroed for, which is whatever the fuck you're going to throw at it, right? If the idea is that you're using your LPVO, right, for long range shots, right, and decent and good ammo, right, that if it's zeroed to that, great. And then again, if you have to use the 55 grain, right, for whatever reason, in the LPVO, like, you can make that mental adjustment, right? Or you can have like the little flip up deals on the scope caps that have, different accounting for your drops or different, zeros with your different ammo. But then your red dot, since the idea is that you're probably not making precision shots with your red dot, you're probably just, gunning, is that would be just with your 55 grain, whatever was kind of the idea.
Yeah, but
So
I still wonder that is like if you still like if even if you do like a precision shot with your red dot, right?
yeah,
You would want to sight it in for the 77 grain, not the 55 grain, because you're going to make that precision shot. And let's say in a wild world, your LPVO takes a rock or bullet, I don't know, you fall down a tree branch and breaks the end off your LPVO. I'm saying total
right,
catastrophic failure. But then
right.
you still can take a precision shot with your red dot.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is that, like, the idea is, in theory, if I'm using my red dot, I'm not making precision shots with my red dot, right? The idea
Yeah.
is like, yeah, could I? Yeah. But I mean, in that situation, again, like the whole idea of the LPVO is that magnified optic to be able to see a little bit further. Like and then depending on the red dot that I wind up throwing on there, and the size of the dot, all that jazz comes into play as far as like realistically how far out am I hitting something with that red dot. To where if I'm, the idea being like, okay, I've got precision ammo on a target out here with my, LPVO, and my other thing is just 0 to 55 grain for my 55 grain stuff. There's a little bit of play, but if I'm shooting 55 grain, if it comes down to like the idea being, for example, let's say I have like 2 or 3 mags of 77 grain in there in 20 round mags, so I know, and I know I'm going to be starting at some distance, right? If it comes in my head, I'm like, okay, cool, great. So I'm doing this for precision shooting or whatever, precision shots at a distance. And then if I have to switch over to 55 grain, I'm probably not worried about precision shots, and I'm just fucking fighting at that point. You know what I
Well,
mean?
yeah,
To where like
I
that
would.
at that point,
I'm gonna
like
throw.
the MOA shift is not going to be is not going to matter a ton at that point because I'm still hitting man-sized targets
Yeah,
with both. Just that like we were out there shooting, and depending on the platform, he's got a couple 5.56 AKs and a few ARs as well. And we were trying it out with a bunch of different stuff. Depending on the platform, there was about a 2 to 3 MOA and on some shift, and on one I think it went all the way up to like 4.5 MOA
yeah,
shift.
yeah,
And so it's something we're going to experiment with and kind of play around with
yeah.
to see if this theory holds up, and it might be that when we do this, we're like, oh, well, it made sense on paper, but in reality, it sucks,
Yeah,
right?
well, yeah,
It might be that it's great. We just got to play around with it and find out.
yeah. My argument on that one is like the whole point of being a prepper or a Minuteman or anything like that is that the unknown. You don't know. So like
Exactly.
you miss your shots. You only have 40 rounds of 77 grain, and you have a whole chest rig full of 55 grain, hypothetically. When you could
Right.
be running everything at 77 grain, that way you have all 77 grain ammo. It doesn't matter.
Well, I think for me, it's more like the idea is the more common optic with the more common use, the one I'm going to be using more often being zeroed for the more often ammunition type. And then the other one being 0 for 77 grade. Again, it's just a theory that we're kind of going with, and I've seen a few people talk about it as this is a potential idea of doing that, and it's kind of piqued my interest, and I see the reasoning behind it, and I think again it's more like, okay, so if the idea of you using the 8 power, on your 1 to 8 is to reach out and make a more precise target at a precise distance, that the two methods of doing that is either one, have that 0 to 77 grain, or I've seen people take the scope caps, right, and have listed on like a little piece of paper in a
Yeah,
circle,
their distance.
like, yeah, their distance and holds with different ammo types.
Yeah.
So, just kind of experimenting with it. Like, to be honest, I've not done a whole lot of precision shooting, and any type of like distance shooting I've done, it's just been like whatever's in the gun and can I hit the steel? And I want to get more into like learning a little bit more about like, okay, like ballistics, and like, okay, this is why 77 grain makes more sense over just whatever's in the gun. And I kind of want to focus a lot on that more this year and kind of work on the whole idea is again, I want to get as much performance as possible out of my general purpose rifle, both as like doing it as a distance platform to see like does it perform at distance? Can it perform at distance? What distances are we talking realistically with a 16-inch suppressed gun? And then also I want to see like, okay, so like here's the idea. It's a general purpose rifle, right? It should be able to do a little bit of everything. It's not going to do one thing like incredibly well as a specialized role, but can I pop in a 20 round mag of 77 grain and hit targets at, 400 or 500 yards, maybe a little further or whatever, no problem. Then swap it out, pop in a drum of 55 grain and just lay 3 drums down of sustained fire as, a auto rifle, and then go back to being a normal rifleman. Like, can I fulfill all 3 roles with one rifle? It's kind of the idea. Like, how little do I need to change on the gun for it to fulfill each role?
Okay. I
That's kind of it. Yeah. Like if you had to have,
I understand it, but like I don't understand the reasoning behind it. Like, but I just don't agree with the reasoning behind it. I guess. Like I see a different ideology in it.
for me, it's just one more of these. Like I want to kind of get behind the idea and learn, like to keep it. Like, can it perform? It's more of like testing a theory,
Yeah.
right? Like,
No.
can
I
yeah,
understand what you're saying and everything like that. But like
yeah.
the ammunition is where you lose me. Is
Okay,
because
like you mean the zeroing?
like no, just the zeroing and also the switching between ammunitions. So like
Right,
I'm one of those
right,
guys that's like, all right, I'm running 77 grain, then I'm getting 1,000 rounds of 77 grain, and every round I'm firing is 77 grain. So like even those three
right,
drum mags would all be just the same ammunition I'd use for my precision shots. You know what I mean?
right. No,
Um,
I get
yeah,
that idea, and like my buddy, so he was saying like most of his stuff is zeroed for 62 grain because that's what he does. He just goes out and buys 1,000 grain, 1,000 rounds, 62 grain, right?
yeah.
And so for me, I don't have I totally understand that philosophy, and I have no issue with that, and that's generally how my stuff has been. But one of the things I kind of want to start to get into a little bit more and learn more, since I've not devoted much time to it, is actually seeing like, okay, for whatever I'm doing, is there a better round for this? Like, is there a reason why I should be using 77 grain to do this task over 62 or 55, and why? Or does it really not make that much of a difference? And I kind of want to, it's more of like a scientific, like, I just want to learn myself and to be like, okay, if I'm trying to hit a target at 700 yards, right?
Yeah.
Why does it matter that I use a 77 grain over a 62 over a 55, or does it, right?
I, w-
Um,
I would set up maybe a little bit different of an experiment with that and just have you do the same course of action with the same rifle, with the same tactics, with the same things, but we're running all different ammunition for the
right.
each of the same task. You know?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Is kind of like, kind of
Yeah.
seeing like a performance test and being like, one, okay, first performance test, how much can I actually get out of the rifle? Like in perfect conditions with the perfect optic and weapon and ammunition setup, what kind of performance can I get from my rifle at distance? Now, under best conditions, what kind of performance can I get out of my rifle as an auto rifle type of deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And can it realistically perform all 3 roles decently enough, or is it one of those things where it's like, man, this thing sucks as an auto rifle, okay, note to self, never doing that again on this?
Yeah.
Or, you know what, it's not really worth it to run it out at distance, I should probably just build a specialized rifle for that. That's more where I'm going with this, is like, if I've got an LPVO red dot setup, 16-inch barrel, something like this, like, can I make it perform? If it's a general purpose rifle, right, which
Mm.
just means it's supposed to be able to be used for all types of purposes, right? A little bit of this and a little bit of that. Where are those lines, right? Is more what I want to, I'm trying to discover with my thing, is like, where are those lines where I'm like, okay, I know that knowing myself and how I shoot and what my rifle can perform to, if I need to take a shot past this distance, I need to get a different rifle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Or, hey, if it came down to it, right?
Yeah.
Can I run my rifle as, the light squad weapon, right? Is my rifle going to be able to maintain itself doing that? That's more where I'm looking at it from.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And then doing that under the perfect conditions of, ideal ammo for that, to know like, okay, top performance, this is what I'm getting,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Out of the best possible scenario, this is what I'm getting, right? And be like, okay, is that good enough? or should I just be like, okay, that's not cut out for that?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just, yeah. I would say that would be two different experiments in my eyes, and run
Oh
multiple
yeah.
different kinds of general purpose rifles in one, and then the other be a totally different experiment of like ammunition. Because like if you want to talk about running the rifle through those three tasks and seeing if the general purpose rifle can actually be like all three tasks, I feel like the
Mhm.
ammo and the magazines and shit should be the media, like the consistent, I forgot what it's called, the controlled in the
Right.
experiment.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Is
Yeah.
just running it through with the same, with like, let's say 55 grain, for example, or just
Yeah.
run everything with 55 grain and see how it performs. And I totally understand that. My thought though is like, okay, um, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying like, okay, let's say under perfect conditions, I'm like, okay, I am going, now that I know that my rifle can perform,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I am going to run my rifle for this specific task as an SPR,
Yeah.
right? And for whatever task it is that I'm doing. Like I'm bringing specialized ammo for this special purpose as an SPR, but I'm also going to have maybe a couple backup mags if things go sideways, and that's just going to be whatever the fuck I have, right? Like my extra backup ammo is going to be whatever I have, right? And so I know though that my rifle can perform this task because I've pushed it to that limit to know that, right? And instead of, not so much as in like um, being like, oh, everything's 55 grain, and like, oh, I happen to run across a scenario, I happen to shoot 800 yards, and then I also then need to drop, need to turn right around and just dump three mags.
Yeah.
Um, you know, More like, okay, I've taken this one rifle, and because if I want to take it to do different mission sets, the only thing I need to change is the ammunition. That's more where I'm coming from with it. To where like if I want to take my GPR and go do an SPR type of thing and specifically only shoot distance, then the only thing I'll need to change about it would be the ammunition type. That's where I'm kind of coming from with this.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So, but it's something it's something I want to play around with a little bit, and kind of thinking just more in the ideas of not buying as many guns this year and focusing more on really trying to get the potential out of what I have, and really trying to figure out the fail points of what I have, like what works well and what doesn't. Because like I come up with all these, like, I mean, I can come up with theories all day long and read on the internet all day long about like, oh, this should be able to do this or that. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, but I want to go do it, and I want to go experiment with this and be like, okay, can I actually perform at that level? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
You know what's something, like we're gonna have to edit some of that out, dude. We got lost in a rabbit hole on that one for a minute.
Nah, we leave it in. We do it live.
Fuck it, we're going live. But you know what I was thinking about just now?
What's that?
No one talks about, everyone talks about Flannel Daddy, right? And like Grantham and everything else. Which
Mm-hmm.
also I cannot wait for I haven't seen it yet, or I don't know if it's out yet. But the talking to two Ukrainian soldiers.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah,
thing's gonna be sick, dude. Trench warfare. I saw a little
yeah.
bit of it. They made an H-shaped like trench, and then they put
Mm-hmm.
targets down in it, and they showed you how to clear a trench. It was pretty
Yeah.
sick.
I think it's out. I think they have more than one episode though on them. I think they have a couple episodes, or they're talking about doing a couple of them with them.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm very interested to see what they have to say on kind of surviving the modern battlefield, because I think the big thing is like it's near peer adversaries are, we don't have a lot of experience doing that. All of our war fighting experience and all of our heroes come from fighting the Taliban.
yeah.
So I
Mine
go ahead.
on that too is like, dude, there hasn't been trench warfare since World War II. So it's
Yeah,
like that's
yeah.
gonna be pretty fucking wild to think about and to really dig into, because honestly, what everyone thinks that with advancements in technology comes with advancements in like killing people and shit, and that's why we had to get away from trenches, because like hiding in one spot, you are dead. You are fucking dead if you're in a trench. But nowadays, if you were talking equal fighting forces, and with the amount of ammunition and what our ammunition and our guns are capable of hitting at distances nowadays, trench warfare is the only way to fight.
Right. Well, I mean, you think about it like World War One, the whole idea was, you've got these machine guns that could just mow people down in mass. You got to dig fortifications and hope for the best, right? And then
Yeah.
eventually one of us is just going to slug the other one until one of us can, charge 100 yards and dig a new trench, right? And then, you see as the advent of the tank comes about, all of a sudden you've got armor that can stop, incoming rounds. Now you don't have to sit in a trench and avoid fire. You can just take the enemy out with armor. And we really see this capitalized on in World War II. The French spend millions of dollars, or billions even, building the Maginot Line. They build this line on the border with France and Germany, right? They don't extend it to Belgium. They just do France and Germany. And they just line it with forts and artillery and pillboxes. And they're like, this is basically the Great Wall of China. They can just bash their heads against this all day long, no problem. So the Germans just went around it.
Yeah.
Again, being that trenches are obsolete. When you can fly over them or drive around them, no problem, right? And we got to this point to where mobile warfare was the thing, just like a quick advancements in blitzkriegs and all this jazz. Well, then in comes Ukraine, right? Well, in the beginning days, a lot of the armor starts taking itself out. Well, when you run out of armor or you get to the point to where you can take armor out with javelins, things like this, to where armor starts to become negated. Well, now all you're left with is artillery and infantry, just like World War One, except the guns are more accurate. The guns are more advanced. The munitions are more advanced. And then you've got the terrifying, in my eyes anyway, terrifying footage of the drone stuff,
That's
where,
what I was also about to say is javelins, but even javelins are becoming an obsolete thing with the amount of drones and what they can drop on these tanks, like certain fire bombs. I saw them completely take out an LAV. They took completely immobilized an LAV with one firebomb.
Well, think about it, right? Why shoot a $40,000? I mean, granted, if you can take out a $13 million tank with one $40,000 javelin rocket, right? That's a win in your book, economically everywhere across the board. Attrition wise, you're winning. Now, if you can cut that cost to a $200 Radio Shack drone and a Molotov cocktail, and you drop it down the hatch of an open tank that's not paying attention, and then now everyone's on fire and the tank is burning, holy crap, dude.
Well, I even saw him using the drones at coming in and just fucking immobilizing the tanks by just dropping simple fucking explosives right on the barrel and shit.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's crazy because it's not like you're looking up for dive bombers in World War II. You're looking up for something the size of a football and in a loud environment that most of the time you're probably not going to hear. It's high enough up you probably won't see it or hear it. And by the time you do, it's too late. All the videos that you see of Russian dudes hanging out in a crater somewhere, just trying to get some cover, and there's 4 or 5 of them, and a hand grenade just gets dropped. You know?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I love those videos.
But I mean, it's how do you stop that? And it's I've seen videos of dudes out there with shotguns just blasting away in the sky and all kinds of things, and it's crazy to me to think about that.
I saw the one that was carrying the mortar. That was sick.
I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, there was one. This Russian dude's smoking a cigarette in a trench, and you can see the drone, and you can see the tip of a mortar shell that's armed, and you just see it go click, and it just falls, and the dude looks up and just stares at it as it comes at him, and it hits him, and it just blows him into 4 pieces.
Yeah, see, that's something I'd like to hear too. Is I would love to see an interview from the Russian perspective, not a propaganda style video, but a real legit, just some dude talking about how it is, and get their perspective of it. I know things were pretty rough in the beginning, but it seems like they're starting to make some headway too. They just retook a town somewhere, I can't pronounce it, but they just recently took a big city somewhere down in southern Ukraine. And I'd like to know, I'm curious to watch that Grantham video and see from their perspective who they think is actually winning.
Yeah, I would love that, dude, because you rarely do you actually see interviews of the dudes and shit like that, just talking genuine about what's going on. And it's a lot of ins and outs, and some people are talking about it, some people aren't. And I really want to know what's going on,
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting to see that. I think there's going to be a lot of lessons learned from this. I think, I think I've talked about it before, but there's Blinkov's Battlegrounds is a really awesome YouTube channel where he does in-depth analysis of, what if this country fought this country, or, he's done some fun ones where he's what if one U.S. strike carrier group went back to World War II? Could it defeat the Japanese,
Yeah.
with all modern equipment and stuff. But he did one where he was talking about production numbers between World War II and nowadays. And he was looking at like the number of tanks and planes that we produce in a year versus the attrition rate of tanks and planes that we see coming out of Ukraine. And basically his consensus at the end of it, long story short, was we can't make them faster than they would be destroyed.
Yeah.
Like we're just going, I mean, like basically what he was saying is like the rate at which they're losing armor in this conflict. And he's saying like, let's say we go to war with China, if it becomes a war with, with a conventional war with military, like full military force, like the amount of equipment we're going to lose in the beginning, like it's we can't replace it fast enough. It's going to be years. We're going to be in such a huge deficit that we either have to throw everything out of it once to get a huge advantage, or we won't. We'll just be kind of stuck in this weird limbo where we have to pick and choose when we use heavy ordnance or certain types of equipment and vehicles because we'll be limited on our ability to replace them.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. They're also like in those events is when people as a like Americans especially as a nation really shine. Like back during like World War II, we always bring up World War II because that was like the actual biggest war that's happened in a long time. But
Right.
like that, no one ever thought the U.S. could ever manufacture the amount of artillery or fucking munitions, anything like that, the amount they actually did. It would be, I don't know, as a nation, people change, and then all of a
I
sudden, no
I
one,
think
it's
the
all about
difference
the war.
I think the big difference though with that though is you had an American mindset of people who actually gave a shit about their country. Two, you also had more production and manufacturing in the United States. Even a lot of our defense industry is compartmentalized in pieces that are made abroad. Part of the reason of the significance of Taiwan is that a lot of the guidance chips in our weapon systems and a lot of the electronic components in our weapon systems are made overseas because they're cheaper to make, and then they're imported to the United States. To where if Taiwan fell, the theory is unless we step up U.S. production like pronto, which we're trying to, that we could not replace the weapons we'd use to fight China with because China would control the necessary components we'd need to build them.
Oh yeah. Taiwan makes like 90% of the chips like go around to the world or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, it wouldn't be just us. It would be everybody, and everyone would have to basically pay China to get weapons to fight China. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and China's corrupt enough. I think they 100% sell them, but it's like, dude, did you see that? There was like some Chinese generals went to go do an inspection of a bunch of of their interballistic rockets and found out that instead of being filled with jet fuel, they'd been siphoned out and filled with water. Like someone's been selling the jet fuel on the side. They just siphoned it all out, filled it with water. They're like, we're never going to use these.
That's crazy, dude.
So yeah, it's wild, man. But I was thinking about this actually. I was talking to my buddy who's a Marine, and so thinking about like Minuteman survival and the importance of this. Like the military is really starting to catch on with this with the Marine Corps' 20 plan for Marine Corps 2030. Have you heard at all about this?
No, what's going on?
So the idea is kind of changing the Marine Corps and back to an island hopping capable military. And so the idea is again like not bringing tanks to the fight, but focusing a lot more on like anti-tank teams. And basically the idea is giving the infantry squad and the weapons teams the ability to have portable anti-ship missiles, portable anti-tank and anti-aircraft capabilities, and the ability to live off the land for prolonged periods of time. The idea being that if you could drop off a bunch of Marines on a bunch of islands in the Pacific and then just have them wait and ambush Chinese troops until we can get a response.
Yeah.
Like Wake Island type shit. Hold until relieved and like live off the jungle and go without resupply and shit like they did in Guadalcanal. Like in World War II in Guadalcanal,
yeah,
we drop the Marines off. They start taking the island. The Navy goes out to fight a battle with them. We get our butts handed to us. We had to withdraw. because the Japanese launch a sneak attack on us. We withdraw. We leave the Marines there for like a couple months on their own before we're finally able to come relieve them. And they had to just scrap for every piece of thing they could find. And that's basically what they're talking about is like giving every Marine Corps, infantry team the ability to do that. And so they're kind of looking at this and being like, hey, look, in my eyes, it's like, hey, as Minutemen type of modern Minutemen type of things, we should be looking at this and saying like, hey, this is showing a significant shift to this. If they're seeing this, why aren't we? So the idea of being able to live off the land, the idea of being able to be self-sufficient, both in a survival and combat type environment, is pretty important to the point to where even the Marine Corps is acknowledging this. And their whole idea behind this is the Pacific is huge. The idea of being able to get logistical resupply probably not going to happen. So how do we make it to where you can live with as little as possible?
Yeah. That's fucking sick, dude. Honestly, it's kind of exciting.
It's exciting and terrifying all at the same time. Because for me, on the terrifying side, it's like, man, modern warfare is terrifying. Can you imagine being some 18-year-old boot Marine? You get dropped off on some no-name Pacific island and you're just told, hey, hold until we come get you.
Yeah, and your commander immediately gets shot in the face.
Yeah, I mean, like 3 days later, the Chinese land and you're just doing guerrilla tactics, trying to make sure you're not on Bataan Death March 2.0. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting in the woods, like the jungle version of Red Dawn. You're basically Rambo, but with anti-tank missiles and night vision. I mean, that's the thing to me that I think is crazy. Now, I will say one of the things I think is smart that they're doing is that because they're not bringing tanks back, the money that they looked at it and they're like, well, one, we've learned from the Ukraine conflict again with this that like we can counter tanks without tanks. You know what I mean? Like we're not planning on doing these big armored amphibious landings, like D-Day. So if we can get everybody anti-tank weaponry, like javelins and stuff, and one, it's easier to carry, easier to bring with you, easier to resupply. I can give you, I can give you 10 javelins or, 25 javelins for the price of one tank. You know what I mean? And then, so instead of doing that, all the money that we would have spent on tanks and maintenance, we're going to get everybody dual nods. We're going to get everybody high-tech equipment. We're going to get everybody more capability and better gear to be able to do their job other than just dumping money into tanks. And if we need tanks, we'll call the Army.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the last like Marine tank like already retired.
Yeah, I believe so. I think they started phased them out during when we were still in Afghanistan. And that was the thing was like, I was watching, there's a lot of talk about like, oh, are they going to bring it back or not? And they're like, nah, like we don't need them. I mean, like we've seen that in the conflict in Ukraine. If we can take out tanks with, drones and javelins, then why bother?
Exactly. Yeah, because they're just gonna do it to us.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I remember someone talking about that the last Marine Corps tank was retired like not that long ago.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, but I think it's interesting to see like from our side of things, that they're seeing, hey, the ability to survive with no resupply is something that they're seeing as important, and something I keep harping on again is like, hey, the ability for us to survive without resupply, like no one is coming to help you, right? If the Marine Corps is acknowledging that no one is coming to help you, you should be acknowledging that no one is coming to help you.
Yeah.
If a literal branch of the military with with granted the smallest budget of all the forces, but still a budget 10 times larger than the nation of Denmark, can figure out that like, hey, even with all this money, supply, and power, and the American ability to get anywhere in 24 hours, we are going to have people that are just going to be on their own. And that's the military saying that about the military. You can be damn sure as a civilian, you're last on the list. So make sure that you have your stuff squared away.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Definitely. When I move out there, are we gonna start a little strawberry farm?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Stay self-sufficient.
Just nothing but strawberries. We've got strawberry jam, strawberry preserves, strawberry jelly, strawberry syrup.
Dude, I'm just saying, me and you could have a little farm, bro.
Bro, we'd have to like, you know what we could do? Have you ever, you know that like Soviet poster where it's the blonde guy and the Asian dude and they're like both raising up the hammers? It's like that meme going around. It's like the gay Russian couple.
No, I've never seen these. What the
So,
fuck?
there's a Soviet propaganda commercial poster. I'll probably post this on the YouTube video. I'll pull it up whenever we upload this to YouTube.
What the fuck?
And it's like there's a blonde guy standing like with an axe or something like some kind of industrial tool or something, and then there's an Asian dude next to him and he's standing his up, and it's supposed to be like ethnic solidarity under communism.
Yeah.
And everyone posts about it, and they're like, "This just looks like a hipster gay couple," you know. And I was like, "That's gonna be us with strawberries."
Just me and you holding hose and just like standing in front of our strawberries.
They'll be like, "I just want the gay couple to be able to guard their pot farm with machine guns," and we're like, "Yes, of course I know him. He's me."
That right there, what you just described, is my America.
Dude, I thought this was America.
Anyone that says like, "Oh, Michael's and Austin's, views on the country are a little bit different," I'm like, yeah, because that's exactly where mine. I don't care if you're gay. I don't give a shit. Get married. I don't give a fuck, bro. Shit, dude. You can grow your pot farm and protect it with machine guns. That's all I care about, dude.
So shifting gears a little bit, I hate to be the guy to tell you I told you so, and I don't mean that to you. I mean it to the audience. But I've been harping my horse for. I've been. That doesn't make any fucking sense. Yeah, I've been tooting my own horn.
My dog here.
Yeah, that's illegal. I've been honking my horn over here about needing to treat state gun issues as a national issue, right? And the reason I've been harping on that is that if enough states follow suit one by one because of all of our inaction, that it gives someone justification to be like, well, why don't we just do this federally? Most of the states are already doing it at the state level anyway. Now, here's why I say that. So you and I both know, and I've harped on it on here long enough. If you've listened to this at any amount of time, I'm going to bring this up, the Washington state assault weapons ban that went through last year, right? This year, Colorado, Minnesota, and two other states I can't think of off the top of my head are proposing the exact same bill that would grandfather in what you currently have, but would ban all semi-automatic platforms, period. All semi-automatic rifles, period. All pistols with threaded barrels, period. And any magazines over 10 rounds, right? This includes, and we're talking everything. We're talking SKSs, 1022s, Marlin Model 60s, doesn't matter, right? There are multiple states that are pushing this crap out there. So, again, I hate to beat a dead horse, but you guys got to get out there. You've got to get active on this stuff and pay attention to this stuff when it's going on. And, get involved with the people that are actually trying to fight this stuff and prevent it and treat these issues as national issues. A really good guy to follow for this on YouTube is Washington Gun Law or Washington Gun Knowledge or what? Washington Gun. Yeah, I'll post it in the link. It's Washington Gun. I think it's Washington Gun Knowledge. Yeah, I'm butchering that, but he's a lawyer out of Washington, does some really good videos. He also focuses on a lot of other states. Pennsylvania, that's another one of the states that's doing it too. And it's just like I said, guys, they've got the West Coast, they've got the East Coast. All of that anti-gun money's got to go somewhere. So they're going to they've got the blue states on lock. So now they're going to go to the purple states. Then once the purple states have all fallen and they're all assault weapons banned across the board, they're going to go to the red states. Do not wait for the Supreme Court to save you. Get out there, get active, and do something about it. That's just my little soapbox thing. I had to put that out there.
100%, dude. Absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself, man.
You could have, but it would have been with a Japanese accent. So.
Oh, to be better.
I love that. That's how your Japanese accent goes.
That is perfect.
Oh, konnichiwa.
Dude, yeah, it's pretty heavy shit, dude. This is all been kind of a heavy episode.
Yeah, well, it'd be what it be. So.
Yeah. End of times kind of shit. They've been saying it. But
hey, things are getting worse before they're going to get better. So, Yeah, things are weird, man. It's a weird time. We all know that 2024 is going to get really weird and really wild. It's only February. It's an election year. Um, it's a weird time, man. There's weird stuff going on all the time. Uh, it's interesting to see, I think, a lot of the stuff that's been happening this year and a lot of the responses to it. I mean, shit, dude, this time last month, you and I thought like Civil War II Electric Boogaloo was about to kick in Texas, and that was a big nothing, you know?
Yeah, I kind of called that one.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it was like day one hype. Everyone's like, "Oh," and by day three, we're all like, "All right, I guess."
Or shoot him already.
Yeah, just do something, you know. I mean, all things said, I'm glad we're not shooting each other yet, but I don't know. Part of me thinks that I really hope it never comes to that, but part of me thinks it's unavoidable. At a certain point, I look at it and it's like part of me thinks it's either that or we just sit down and take it, and I don't know when that line gets crossed. Like how far do we go before we hit that point of no return?
I know exactly when that line is drawn, and my face will be on a newspaper. So,
Local man masturbates at City Park.
You can't take my guns.
Like this, not at all what I thought he meant.
I'm just gonna be jerking off in State Park, screaming that.
Dude, speaking of that, completely unrelated. Did you see that big? I think it was down in California. That big house they raided, and they had like all of those antique machine guns.
No.
Yeah, so there was. I don't know the full story to be honest, but there was some dude. I just keep seeing the pictures of the guns. The dude had, for some reason, the house got raided, and he just had like all these antique machine guns, like Ian McCullen level, numbers of antique guns, and really cool stuff, and all of them not kosher by California's law, and they all got destroyed. And every time I see it, I see the pictures, my heart hurts a little bit.
That's wild to me that they can just fucking do that, even though they're grandfathered in.
Well, or the fact, or my thing is like, dude, why not just send that stuff to a museum? Like don't just destroy it. Like that's like the gun buyback stuff. I was watching. I love watching the videos where like Brandon Herrera goes out to gun buybacks and just starts buying guns off people before they go to the police because he's trying to salvage these things. And like some of these dudes, like one of the guys was saying, they were talking. They go out to this one down in San Antonio and they're like trying to buy guns off the people in line to go give their guns to the cops for like $50 gift cards, right?
Yeah.
It was funny because everyone there that was a gun guy that was getting rid of their stuff, they were all getting rid of like stuff that doesn't work or like beat up old Jennings 22s, like pieces of crap that weren't worth $50, right? Yeah. Or like homemade guns, things like that. And kind of scamming the system, being like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go take my crap, my trash down, get some more money than it's worth in a gift card, and then go buy ammo with it.
Yeah.
And then like there was one dude they were talking to, and he's like, yeah, I tried to go buy an M1A off a guy for $1,200, and he told me to fuck off. He'd rather give it to the police. And they're like, how much are they going to give him for it? They're like, they're going to give him a $200 gift card. I was like, he's like, are you serious? And that's something I just can't wrap my head around, man.
You never will be because we're sane fucking people.
Yeah, I mean, like that's my thing is like if you want to get rid of it, like get rid of it to the guy that's going to pay you $1,200, not the guy that's going to give you $200 in a gift card and then destroy the thing,
Or if you really want to get rid of it, right? And it's an old M1A like that, just give it to a museum. I would love more of that shit, like preserved.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of museums or collectors that would all like to have that stuff. I mean, that's like when you read about the things where it's like grandma brings in the STG 44 that grandpa had hidden in the basement for the last 60 years, and it gets destroyed, and you're like, what, dude? Why?
Yeah, I remember one. I remember when I was working at a gun shop down in California. This old lady came in wondering if she could sell us her guns, and she had some like primo fucking guns, like all World War II era. And apparently her husband, who died, was in World War II, and he got a bunch of fucking World War II type guns. And we told her, we're like, do not sell these, do not get rid of these, give them to your grandkids. Like we did everything we could to talk her out of trying to sell them.
Yeah, man, I don't understand it. I don't get why people are so scared of stuff, I mean, dude,
that's the first thing she said. She's like, I don't want to give them to my kids and have them hurt themselves. I was like, it's not, dude. This is a collector's item. This is something that you pass on the family for generations. Like, back
Like
in the
if you're that concerned about it, don't
yeah.
give them ammo.
Yeah, don't give them ammo, or just like give them to the adults of the maybe I don't know, maybe all her fucking grandkids were shitty. And I don't know her family life, so I'm not gonna fully judge her. But like, isn't that super cool? Like way back days, like think about like Conan the fucking Barbarian days when Grandpa would undig his sword out the rocks or something like that when he was a Viking.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
that's just what I was thinking about. Like how many times you see like I know it's a big cliche in movies, but like it was a real thing where they're like, "This is my father's sword, and his father's before him." This
yeah,
sword's been in my family for generations, and it's like, yeah, that was a war implement. He killed people. There was blood on that sword. That was the equivalent of a rifle being handed down.
yeah,
That thing had seen battle, and it was seen as like a way to protect you and yourself and your family, and it was an honor and a privilege to
to
be
pass it.
considered worthy enough to receive it.
Yeah,
And now it's like I had a couple come into the gun shop one time and they were like, oh my gosh, if we'd have known this had been in the house the entire time, I don't even know. And they had a Smith and Wesson model 442, so a little 5-shot 38 in a shoebox, you know, and they're acting like this thing's like breeding cancer, you know. They're just like, oh my gosh, please take it. I mean, I gladly picked it up off them for like $100, but you know, it was one of those things where it's like you'd have thought that thing murdered everyone in their house and was on a rampage the way they treated that gun. They were terrified of this. And I'm like, how soft have we gotten, dude? I'm like, our ancestors used to pass down swords and battle axes, and be like, hey, it's your right to go off and die in battle. And then pass this off to your son. That's your legacy. And now we're sitting here like, oh no, 5-shot 38, get it away from me. Gross.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like
It,
I look at it. Go ahead.
it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like my grandfather passed down to me. Um, it's a Sears and Roebuck copy of a Marlin Model 60. And it's just a little 22, but it's something that like his grandfather bought out of a Sears catalog. You know, and my grandfather was born in 1939, so I know it was before that. This gun's probably pushing 100 years plus, and he handed it down to me, and I look forward to handing it down to my son and keeping it in the family as long as possible, as long as the thing functions, hopefully, and if not, then setting it somewhere, and that being like part of my legacy to my kid,
Yeah.
is not just the stuff I taught him, but like having something physical to it, because like the whole idea behind like granddaddy's gun is that again you're passing on a part of you to somebody, and to me like I just don't understand why you wouldn't want that.
See, and I'm actually really fucking jealous of that because I wish I could have something like that I could pass on to my son. But it's gonna have to start with me. That's what happens when you come from shitty families, shitty childhoods. All of your fucking grandparents are felons, so no guns.
Surprise, surprise! You just wind up with a truckload of guns one day from Grandpa. He's like, don't tell anybody.
Dude, my grandpa was a felon. My dad was a felon. There's no gun there.
They show
And
up, they're like, hey,
if there
they,
was,
they
it was
bring you,
taken away.
say they bring you a bunch of guns. Like, by the way, if the ATF comes looking, I'm not here.
Which it's yeah. So I'm gonna start with my son. Actually, my wife said something funny to me because I was talking the other day. I was like, I kind of want a Glock 45 because I want a new carry gun. And she's like, yeah, and then you can pass the 19 down to my son. And I was like, babe, that gun's gonna be so fucking outdated by the time he's old enough to get that gun. The Glock 19 is gonna be the 1911 of our age.
Dude,
Like,
like Glock will just be on the Glock like Gen 17 of the Glock 19. Like or they'll come up with another number system like they did for like the 47 or the 49 or whatever the hell it is now. They'll
yeah,
just be on the 50th version of it.
there's gonna be a Glock you can buy off the shelf that's gonna be performance, everything ready to go, just the exact way people want it. Just like Glocks and everything are updating now. Like you can't buy a handgun today without an RMR cut or some sort of slide duration or the MOS version of the gun. Like there is none. And then
Oh,
now almost every single gun I see sold nowadays come with the red dot on them. You know?
dude, have you seen the Wilson Combat clips going around the internet?
No.
So, do you know who Ken Hackathorn is?
Yeah.
Okay, so Ken Hackathorn, he's got these videos going around where that have been pretty popular lately of him talking about stuff, and it's just total FUD lore. It's so funny watching. He's like, he's like, yeah. Anytime I see all these kids out there, carrying an appendix, that's when you carry up front. And I just got to say, any gun you carry up front that way is a potential decocker. You know, he's like, and the thing is, these kids are so dumb. They just take their weapon, point it right at their stomach. When they reholster. And then that's how you shoot your balls off. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And I'm like, get out of here, Grandpa! Like, yes, you're a legend, but shut up. And he had the same thing about. He's like, you don't need a weapon mounted light. He's like, when's the last time you had to use a light on your gun, huh? Really? Like people carrying all these lights on their guns. Like, what? People don't need that. You don't need. I've been carrying iron sights on my 1911 at the 4 o'clock for 40 years.
Yeah.
And
I've been carrying my 1911 tucked in my ass cheeks for the last 40 years.
Yeah, right next to my AARP card and my diabetes medication.
Dude, and it's just so crazy because I know I want to say I will not be like this and I will always accept knowledge because knowledge is key to everything. But I might be a FUD, dude. Because if you think the way you train right now and all the fucking gear that you have right now is going to be any relevance in like 20, 30 years, you're absolutely wrong.
Oh, dude, it's going to be one of those things where we're going to be sitting there and be like, I remember bump helmets. Or, I remember night vision before you kids got all your neural implants.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like, I remember when our eyes were real.
Dude, it's gonna hold zero fucking water in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy to see how quickly things change. And it's one of those things too where I wonder sometimes about that, like, how fast we're moving into where we have RMR cuts on every gun, we've got optics on every gun, we've got lights on every gun. Like, the next thing later down the road, I'm kind of surprised no one's figured out a good way to build a light into a gun.
Yeah. Build a light, build IR into lights now, like all sorts of shit. Like, I keep on like to piggyback back onto the Ukraine video with Grantham is he said right in the beginning of the video, just in the short amount, 4 years I've been out of the military, it is vastly different. Like the tactics, the fighting, the guns, everything is vastly different. So I'm kind of like wondering what's going to be vastly different for our kids' generation for firearms and stuff like that comparatively to ours.
Well, think about just like the what did I say? Think about more like just those guys in Ukraine, right? How different was the war from day one to now?
Yeah.
From day, I mean, I remember, just going off of news footage and stuff, like, they were like, oh man, the Russians are at the gates. We're handing out AKs to everybody. You got a pulse, make Molotov cocktails. You got arms, here's an AK. To now, like, what are the with having 2 years of being sent everything from NATO that's not nailed down. Like, I just read a thing yesterday that said, like, I think it was the Denmark sent them all of their artillery, not some of it, all of it. Like, Denmark now has no artillery. It's all in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like that, now, like, how different is the war from then to now? How quickly things change in that regard. And putting that into a scenario here, like if there was a conflict inside the United States, how rapidly do you think things would change? I mean, I think if it lasted over a year, like from day 1 to day 365 would be unrecognizable.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. It would be, completely different.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, how things play out with that. And it'll be curious to see, too, I think, with the Ukraine thing, like, as the election year comes on, especially, like, if someone like Trump does take the presidency and if he holds to what he said about withdrawing aid from Ukraine, things like that, like, how will things change, on that regard? Like, will they come to a peace agreement? Will things escalate one way or the other? I think it's just been interesting to see stuff with that. Did you see that any of the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin?
No, I haven't. Was it good?
Yeah, it was pretty good. There's some funny, like it was funny though because he opens up and he's like, "So why did you start the war? You know, like why invade Ukraine?" And then for like the first half hour, Putin's like, "Well, back in the year 800, the Rus people formulated to create the country of Muscovy," and just like goes on for like explaining literally 1,000 years over 1,000 years of Russian history. And I'm like, and you invaded why?
And what's the answer? Does he
Yeah,
ever give
but
one?
no, I mean he kind of gets into it a little bit more, basically about how he, in his view, I think the point he was trying to get to is how, in his view, it's always in the Russian people's mind been viewed as Russian territory, and
Mm,
so he feels like he's just reclaiming what's his. But then like Tucker brings up a good point. He's like, well, then how far back do we need to go? Like Hungary owned part of Ukraine. Are you going to give part to Hungary? What about this place? What about that place? Like we can go back far enough. You know, technically, part of Russia used to be owned by Poland. Like, are we going to go back that far? You know, like how far do you want to go? You know,
yeah.
if we go back a little too soon, a lot of Russia was controlled by the Nazis. Like, how far back you want to go? You know,
Yeah.
so it's interesting though. I think in my eyes, like just kind of as we go forward with things, keeping your head on a swivel, seeing what's going on. Weird stuff happens all the time. We live in weird times, and I think more and more people are kind of waking up and being like, maybe I should get prepared.
Hopefully, because you're not safe. No one's gonna save you.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I think that a lot of people don't realize, and I mean I know the people that listen to this do, and maybe I'm beating a dead horse here, but for those that don't, I think it's really sad because like they genuinely, I think a lot of people live generally protected lives, and they don't see why the government wouldn't help them. And for me, it's like you mean nothing to them.
Yeah.
Like you are nobody. You mean nothing to the government. If you don't, one, if you don't work for it, like if you're not receiving a check from the federal government, they don't care about you. And two, if you are receiving a check from the federal government, that just means they only care about you about 3%.
Or at least care enough to shut you up.
Yeah, depending on where you're at, like depending on the field and stuff you're in, that means the level of how much they care about you a little bit higher, but significantly still no.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where I think it's really interesting to me that so many people can see all this stuff going on. They can see all of this corruption and then not put two and two together.
I don't know, bro.
These people will talk about like, oh, the government's corrupt and it's ran by corporations. They're going to save us. What?
They are my savior.
Yeah. Keep buying stuff, consume. So, but yeah, in other words, so we also, if you guys haven't checked this out yet, check out the YouTube. We're gonna have more videos coming up soon, and Mike's hopefully going to be in some of them in the near future, hopefully.
Mhm.
But we are going to be doing a review on some partial safety masks I was sent. Full disclosure, they sent them to me for free. I asked if I could review some of their stuff, check it out. They did send me stuff for free. That being said, I am not doing this in exchange for positive, one way or the other. We're going to be honest about this. We're going to check out the effectiveness of it. We're going to check out how to shoot with a gas mask, trying out some different optic setups, what works best, what doesn't, if there's different platforms that make it easier or not, different optic setups that make it easier or not, and then also test out the effectiveness of the mask. Probably get some OC spray going and some smoke stuff. But yeah, we're going to do some cool stuff with that. Some other stuff in the pipes coming down the line too for videos. So check out the YouTube. And again, if you haven't already, go to the socials. The links are in the bottom. Check out. Go to the Mid Tier Thoughts Instagram. Again, link will be in the description. And enter the win that jacket. It'll be pretty cool. So it is kind of cool to me that we are starting to get some kind of pull, I guess you could say, some kind of recognition to where companies feel satisfied to be able to send us some stuff as well as give stuff away for giveaways. So to me, that's really cool that we've kind of reached a milestone there. And that's all thanks to you guys that are listening.
Yeah, dude. We much appreciated. I mean, it's what keeps us alive and going doing this. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you and I talked about this once before. I think it was you and I that were talking about it, to where someone did stats on it, and it was like upwards of like 75 to 80% of most podcasts that start don't make it a full year. And here we are almost a year and a half into this, still going strong, still growing. And again, that's all thanks to you guys.
Oh yeah, dude, couldn't have said it better myself.
So with that said, guys, also, if you've made it this far, check out the www.midtierthoughts.com. Again, link in the bottom, because we dropped some new merch recently since that whole Acorn shooting thing in Florida.
Oh, dude, we almost got off without talking about that, dude. That is fucking the wildest story, bro.
Yeah, I feel like we could jump back in with that real quick. I definitely think that that stuff's awesome. I want to do. Maybe we should do it.
How did that person not die? That is crazy,
dude. I think Angry Cop said it best, where he's like, the trainer in me immediately thinks, you suck, you hit nothing.
Dude, that's what I'm saying, dude. How did you not hit him?
My favorite thing, though, has been the memes coming out of it, where the guy's like, when you get pulled over by a cop underneath an acorn tree, and you're just like, he's like shakily pulling out the phone. Babe, I just wanted to say I love you, and if I don't see you again, you're the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Dude, I just see the one where all the memes, all the TikToks and shit, where it shows a squirrel up in a tree staring in the distance, and it's like hardcore rock music playing, and it says, when you throw your acorn at the top of the cop car and he mac dumps a guy.
So the merch we released, we have a shirt and a sticker of it, and it is a parachuting acorn with guns in its hands and an angry face, and it says "Death from Above." So yeah, if you like funny stuff, check it out. But yeah, man, I'm so ready for Florida cop headlines, because Florida man, we already know. Now if add Florida cop, oh, perfection.
Dude, that's not even close to a gun sound. What is wrong with that?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, and the thing was, here's the crazy part about it, because Angry Cuffs did a deep dive into this. That guy supposedly was former. He claims to have been an officer in the Army with Special Forces.
Yeah.
Now, I think there's a comma in there somewhere. Like, he was an officer in the Army, comma, happened to have been in the same place with Special Forces. Not that he was Special Forces, but like, he may have been an officer attached to Special Forces.
Yeah, he was the what are they called? Like the LSs.
Like, he also immediately resigned afterwards, which I feel like at that point you have to, because can you imagine, like, not even like the legal trouble. Like, let's assume no legal trouble comes out of this, right? Just the amount of shit talk you will never live down.
No, they'll never give you a gun again.
No, like, dude, even if they did, I mean, I'm just saying, like, just going to the locker room the next day, like, I'd be like, all right, I'll just eat a bullet. You know?
Dude, yeah, that's definitely.
He opens his locker the next day and it's just full of acorns.
Dude, that's definitely go to my ex-wife's house and blow my brains out on her phone.
Dude, 100%. Like, that's the kind of stuff you just don't come back from.
All right, man. I gotta get
back. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening again to Mid-Tier Thoughts. Have a good one.
Later, bro.
Bye.